Van kindsbeen af, met raad en saam, met lyding en hoop, verdriet en saam staan jy staan. Jy is altyd daar. Dit wat ons doen, ons liefdes, ons vreugdes, ons plekke, ons thuistes, tot daar waar ons reis, jy is daar. Afrikaans is ons wese, dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Al verander straatname, al word helde laat val, ons is steeds deur ons adem, ons kultuur, ons verhaal, dit sal altyd bestaan. Afrikaans is ons wese, dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Ons is daarmee gebore, die taal waarvoor ons staan, dit vloei deur ons are, ons kinders praat het saam, dit sal altyd bestaan. Afrikaans is ons wese, dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, en Afrikaans vir ons mense. Afrikaans vir ons mense. Afrikaans vir my mense. Afrikaans vir ons mense.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming, it's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
September 11th. 23 years after the horrific assault on humanity that occurred in New York, in our nation's capital, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, a couple hours west of where I sit right now. Welcome back, folks. The 23rd anniversary of the most heinous of all acts. Unbelievable carnage inflicted upon the world. Global financial system nearly melted down overnight as a consequence of this stupidity. Only the actions of a brave few people prevented the world from collapsing at that time. Welcome back to the program. There appears to be a hate wanker already in the chat. Welcome to the hate wanker. Take your bogus bullshit elsewhere. You're not welcome here. You want to have a conversation, you're welcome to do that, but hate wankers are not welcome here. Thanks for tuning in, folks. What is going on here? All kinds of weird stuff. There we go. Finally, it's working. All right, so let me say hello to everybody in the chat, then we'll get into discussion about a number of things here. Sue Walsh, welcome to you. Teresa, hello again. Ulrich Fenter, Val Cooper, Arc Precision, Dylan Combrick, Pablo Charlie, Monray Siebritz. Can you ask Rahman to ask his pal Putin for an AK-47 for my gun collection? That's funny. Courtney says, I can imagine what can be unburdened by what has been. That's excellent. Vilma Rasmus welcomes me again. You guys, Trump or Harris supporters here. West, I am a patriotic American. I don't know what to tell you beyond that, so you can guess what you want from that. Gus, welcome to you. Courtney McBride, I wish there were English subtitles for this opening song. It's sung with such passion. It is, Courtney, it is. I had the lyrics in Afrikaans at one point, but I can't find the file. I begged for months to get that from Johan. He was slow getting it to me. He finally did send me the lyrics, and I can't find them. All right, so Pablo says 3 versus 1, but the kings of all kings, Trump still performed. Nah, we're going to be honest about Trump, as I always am about all of this stuff. Trump underperformed last night. Kamala Harris did what she had to do. She was condescending, disrespectful, arrogant, and everything she claimed that Trump was is exactly what she was last night. She was a name-calling evil troll last night, and ABC was just absolutely despicable and shameful. Trump failed to knock the ball out of the park on several occasions, not the least of which was when abortion came up. This was obviously bullshit. Abortion has nothing to do with this election. Nothing that the next government will do at the federal level will have any impact on abortion whatsoever. Abortion is rightly where it belongs, with the states. Under the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, there's no such power with the federal government, which has usurped the Constitution for over a century. And I read from the 10th Amendment, ladies and gentlemen. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution is very simple. It's not hard to follow. Very simple. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the states respectively or to the people. There's no mention of abortion for the federal government. There's no mention of prohibition of abortion to the states in the Constitution. Therefore, abortion is an issue decided at state level, not the federal level. The abomination known as Roe versus Wade for 52 years allowed for the murder of over 50 million American children in the womb. We hear the nonsense from leftists about how we need immigrants and how America's birth rate is declining. Well, the reason America's birth rate is declining is because you've murdered 50 million Americans over the past 50 years. It's quite simple. That's why the birth rate's declining. One of the major reasons for it. Abortion is one of the major reasons why America's replacement rate has finally gone below replacement. So anyway, nonsense. That's not what I want to talk about. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But anyway, as I was saying, lots to talk about. As always, September 11th, the anniversary of the horrific crimes committed by radical fascist Islamist Nazis, who are a scourge on this planet to this very day. And they're more prevalent than ever. Look at them wandering through the streets of London, attacking English people, getting away with it. I just watched a video a short while ago about the person sounds like they might be South Asian. I don't know because I don't see them on camera. But the person is clearly a resident, a citizen of the UK, or at least knows their rights. And the harassment by police for 3 minutes. We're going to watch that video a little bit later on, but it's unbelievable. Arc Precision says Trumpy. Chris Ayler says, hey to everyone. Alan Kotza. Courtney, I found Kamala's body language during the debate to be passive-aggressive and condescending. It was very condescending, very snarky, very rude and disrespectful. Her fake smiles, I think she took Putin's endorsement and compliments a little too seriously. All right. Lee Lowe says, I lost 2 babies, so why find them in dustbins? Oh, that's horrible, Lee. Don't they bury them? Smee says, I'll translate the lyrics. Okay, well, thank you. Retardistan says, I saw that video, but when I tell people it's not great, they say I'm lying. What video is that? The one about the UK where the guy is accosted by the Mercia police? Kamala's followers endorse Trump, I heard. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. He's already come out. Brian says, working my butt off. Good. And you, Chris? Well, working my butt off. Oh, the UK one. Yeah, okay. Well, I have that video. I'm going to show it. I show parts of it, at least anyway. It's 3 minutes long, so I don't know if I can keep my audience's attention for that long. I was busy earlier. I had to go into the Veterans for Foreign Wars post. It's September 11th. On dates like this, we lower the flag to half-mast. I did an impromptu ceremony in my uniform, and we did a ceremony to recognize September 11th. So let me see if I can show you the photo of that real quick. There's a video. Come on. That did not work very well. That's the problem with trying to show this phone. I got a camera on the screen. I should use that camera. So let me. Okay, here you go. I'll load it up later on if you're curious. Anyway, folks, that was what we did earlier when they opened up the building. I took a mental health today. I've been having a tough time. I'm not sure I'm delivering the UPS is going to be a long term. I'm sorry to hear that you're not doing well there. Courtney, hang in there. It'll be better. James Brown, it was unfair debate for Trump. Of course it was. Of course it was. But Trump underperformed nonetheless. It's very simple. When abortion came up and they allowed it to run on for 16 minutes of a 90-minute debate talking about abortion, an issue that is not going to be part of this next administration, Trump actually said, she's not going to be able to get anything done, about it because the Senate will never go for it. And he's right. But what he should have said about abortion is that, why are we talking about this? This is settled. It was unconstitutional according to the 10th Amendment. The Constitution has been set right. The issue correctly belongs with the states, and not a single state in America has banned abortion. That's what you say. That's it. Not the driveling and going on about immigrants and all this other stuff that Trump did. Simple. Knock it out of the park. That's all he had to say. I don't know who prepped Donald Trump, but they should be sacked right now. And if he didn't listen to people who prepped him, then he needs to smack upside the head. Donald Trump needs a PK because it's just stupid. Now, nothing changes from last night. Trump underperformed. No one's going to abandon him because of that. Kamala didn't expose herself for the blithering idiot that she is, so she survived, and that was enough. So she will arrest her decline, and in the battleground states, Trump is still winning. The race is over. So that accomplished nothing last night other than make ABC feel very special and pompous. College degree and I'm a decorated Naval veteran. There are many good career options. Of course there are. Of course there are. Independent perspective. So why the Democratic Alliance attacking its so-called ANC partners? They choose to be partners with the ANC. Okay, first off, independent perspectives. The Democratic Alliance is not attacking the ANC. You are believing propaganda from News 24, presumably. I have that story. We're going to talk about it. The DA is not attacking the ANC. That's what News 24 and the Independent Line are telling you. The DA made it clear when they went into the government that did not support the Bella bill. Because the bill is going to be signed on Friday, now the media suddenly regurgitate this topic, claiming the DA is going to abandon the government of national unity. That's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. They're not going to go anywhere. They'll squawk about it. They'll make a lot of noise and nothing will happen. Then the groups, civic groups like AfriForum and others will take this to court. It will get through the corrupt, racist courts at the lower level and be upheld. And it will get the Supreme Court of Appeal and it will be overturned. And if not, there it will be overturned at the Constitutional Court because it is unconstitutional. So that's the reality here. Don't buy into the narrative. Come on, you people are brighter than that. Come on, who was it that said that? Independent perspective. You are brighter than that. They're not attacking the government of national unity. They're part and parcel of the government of national unity. Maybe Anniversary more of remember, it's not only adults, but there was, if I'm not mistaken, a nursery in the tower. Yeah, no, it was horrible. Horrible. Hey, George is here. DeBaron, I missed a few people. It's me again. Retardistan is here. Pablo Charlie. I'm going to talk about Ramon Cabanac as well. That's the Times, Sunday Times, or the Times ran an article on that today based on a tweet. Ramon did a tweet, and I'm going to comment on it. Let me find Ramon's tweet. I'm not, some things are better left undone, but this sounds like something that he did either because because he felt he had to, or he was told to do it. I really don't know, but he made a statement. Okay, so actually, let me just stop with everything else and read that statement now. How's that? We've got Retardistan in here, so let's go ahead and do that. Since, hey, Elma 5 Pence, Richard Kuhn, Chris Ehlers, Nick Muller, Hendo, Garrett Gillich, Grow Big TV. Sorry I missed you all. Okay, would you like me to join and talk about it? Yeah, sure. You want to join? That wasn't the plan. What about you guys? You guys want Byron to join me? Talk about it? Let me get some feedback. I'm going to read this. I'll give you a few moments to give me some feedback. If you'd like Byron to join me, then I'll send him a Zoom link. Hang on. So I'm going to read this statement. I'll show you what it looks like. He's posted on his Twitter account. So I'll show you. Hang on a second here. So that's Ramon's account. You can see that. He's at 1,700 posts that are left after stripping his account. So this is what the letter looks like. I'm going to read it. Okay, so I got 2 yeses, so hang on. So statement of the Chief of Staff to the Minister of Agriculture regarding recent events. Dear fellow South Africans, in recent weeks there's been heated debate regarding my appointment as Chief of Staff to the Minister of Agriculture. On September 1st, I briefly addressed this on my X page, stating that I accepted the role to contribute to our nation's growth, food security, and economic stability, and that I would work with anyone who shares these goals. However, I realize that more needs to be said. I acknowledge that some of my past online statements were simplistic and controversial, leading to strong reactions. I understand and respect the concerns which have been raised, especially considering my new nonpartisan role. I remain committed to building a better South Africa for all of us. Okay, that probably is where it should have ended. In the past, I built my brand as a critic of the previous government. I pushed boundaries to gain attention on social media and sometimes made divisive, idle, and poorly considered statements in the heat of online journalism. Shouldn't have said that. While some of my criticisms are well-founded, I also admit that others were insensitive and provocative, driven by the desire to invite debate. Well, that's not necessary. In 2024, both our country and I changed. It dawned on me that my approach had not been constructive. Judging books by covers is how many online conversations go. And I realized that it's better to help read or write a book than to critique its title. The political landscape shifted, and I acknowledged that it was my first real opportunity to contribute to government affairs in South Africa. Well, I don't think that was a wise thing to say, because basically what he just said is everything he said before is bullshit, and he didn't believe in it. I mean, that's my analysis. What do you guys think? So I got about half a dozen people say bring him in. Mighty Jamie will read that letter and make it look as bad as he can. He already negative spammed DA videos for days. Yeah, no, I'm sure he will. This is not a good move. All right, so we're going to get not Roman. You're going to get Byron in here. Hang on. Let me send him a link. Set up a Zoom session. Give me a second here, folks. Zoom, start a new session. Wasn't planning on doing this, particularly on Wednesday, but this is a good opportunity to enjoy this. Why is it asking me for my damn password? What the hell is this shit? There we go. Doesn't ask me for it that time. Good Lord. Frickin' nonsense. I swear to gosh. This is unbelievable. All right, so let me get this up here very quickly. What, now I mentioned Byron's coming on and the audience drops? No, I'm just teasing. All right, so hang on a second here, folks. I got to turn my camera off here, turn the other camera on. So give me a second here. It takes a little bit of jiggling around here. Take that one off. Turn this one on. Okay, that one's on. Now let's get the Zoom in here. All right, there you go. So Zoom's in there. All right, let me go ahead and record this since we got it. Record on this computer.
Recording in progress.
Well, thank you, sweetheart. That's kind of you to tell me that we're recording in progress. Okay, where is the link on this thing? It used to be up here. You click on it and you get a link. What the heck? How do I invite people now? What is going on here? The idiots keep changing this stuff. How do I invite people now? Invite people. Oh, my goodness. Now I don't even have the link for it. I don't even know how to do this now. They've changed it. It used to be up here. You click on it. Now it's gone. I don't want full mode. Oh, my goodness. What is going on here? Freaking idiots. Okay, I don't know how to do that now. I'm going to have to go back to the Zoom center and see if I can't find it there. Oh, my goodness. Wow. I mean, how do I invite people in? It didn't even give me an opportunity to do that, so I didn't set the meeting up. That's just crazy. Timer. There's no place to invite people in here anymore. There used to be a thing up there. Participants, copy invite link. There it is. Wow. Wow. What a bunch of morons at Zoom to do that. Hang on, Byron. It's coming your way. Unbelievable. All right, there's a link to Byron Shepard from Morning Shot, or as he is in here today, is Retarded Stan. All right, let's see if we get him in here. Phone on. Can you guys hear me okay? You guys can hear me because it's not going through Zoom. All right, everybody can hear me, right? There's no loss. Okay, I'm not getting any feedback here. Go down here. There it is. Okay, microphone's still working. All right. So wait for Byron to pop up here. So, all right, thank you. Yeah, Sean says he cares very little about what Propaganda 24 has to say. Look, I don't disagree with you, but again, watch my video, you'll see why I talk about it. And I think that my video pretty much spells it out. There's Byron coming in. All right, here we go. Unexpected guest. Let's see how it goes. This is good because I was supposed to do an interview this morning, and my guest begged off again the second time this week, asked me to wait till next week. So hopefully that will go well. All right, so what have I missed over here? Krokatupia's here. Marilyn. Hey, Marilyn, how you doing? Nick Groves is here. And Mighty Jamie. Yeah, no, of course he'll do some nonsense. There he is. I don't hear him. I can't hear you. I'm not hearing him. Desktop audio's on, so it should be coming through. Can't hear you, Byron, at all. I don't know what's going on. It says you're connecting to audio now. Okay.
As you can see, we're super professional on this side of things, aren't we?
All right. So this is like an amateur Joe Amelia operation. Come on, man. Get your act together. Poor dodgy Joe Emilio, just picking on him. All right.
So it's actually Zoom's fault because they've changed all the settings. I've actually just gone into it and saying all my settings are just absolutely screwed.
Exactly. Like in the upper left-hand corner there is when you usually click to get the link to send to someone. I'm like, where the hell's the link at? I had to find it. Anyway, well, we've got it. You got the audio sorted out. We're here. All right, folks, you can hear both of us. Byron, you want to call in? I guess you want to talk not so much about Trump, but about the Ramon Cabanac story. Is that what you want to talk about?
I found the Ramon Cabanac story probably a bit like you, a little bit regrettable.
Yeah, it is very regrettable. The whole thing is ridiculous. You saw my video that I released earlier today, and you also saw the one from last night, correct? The one I did last night was where News 24 implies he's
I've seen all your videos on this, and I must say this. Just before I go in a little bit further, there's a little bit of a delay on the audio between us and Zoom. Don't know what it is. But anyway, I've seen all your videos on these, and yes, I agree with most of them.
Okay, there indeed is some sort of delay there. Okay, so what did you want to talk about? You wanted to call in, so let's get on to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, my main concern at the moment is obviously the way this has all been done. I mean, obviously the whole thing has been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks now. We've seen Ramon attacked numerously for his views, and what we now saw in the latest hit piece from Karen. Those you don't know, like News 24 has a bunch of journos, right? So the journos start off in like basic bullshit journos that just do basic rubbishy video or articles, what you might call filler. And then they have their top tier journos, the ones that are like the investigative. These are the creme de la creme. So what we've seen is that they've had one of their creme de la creme investigators, if you will, Karen. She actually messaged Ramon and asked him for an interview, and he refused to have the interview. He said, you can have all of whatever you want from me. You can have it over WhatsApp. I want everything in writing so that if you twist anything I say, I've got it in writing. So thankfully, you'll notice that article, they quote Ramon quite a lot, and they do it verbatim. Now, that was obviously deliberate, because now they know they can't basically twist what he has to say. But there were key things that happened in that article, if you will. The first is they call him basically a Russian spy. Basically what they were suggesting. And they gave a reason for that. The first is that the Morning Shot Twitter handle frequently gets listed on social media, on X. It gets tagged in a lot of Russian posts. And the second is that Ramon went to Russia to go see Rosatom. Now, for those of you who don't know, Rosatom isn't owned by Russia. It's actually an independent company. And Rosatom has a lot of contracts up and down Africa providing energy resources in Africa. In fact, they're currently bidding for one in Egypt. Now, as part of that, they try to promote Russian energy quite a lot in Africa as a whole. And so they invited a huge delegation of journalists to basically see their operation in Russia and what it is they were trying to sell to Africa. That was it. I mean, Hugo got invited from there. You know Hugo. Princess, who's one on the actual nuclear committee for South Africa, she was invited. So is she a Russian spy? Don't know, apparently not. And a number of journalists were invited from Nigeria. Were they Russian spies then? But apparently Ramon's a Russian spy because of those two factors, right? He's fingered first in this report, or the Morning Shot Twitter handle, and then the second is obviously because he went to Russia. That's what we would typically, you and I would refer to as reaching. And that's a huge overreach. Now, because of that overreach, the information that I've received is that there are parties within the DA funding committee that were a little bit nervous because the DA is not, specifically the DA funders are not what you might call as pro-Russian at all. In fact, as you know, in the start of the Russian-Ukraine conflict, the DA came out on the side of Ukraine. So this idea or the suggestion that Ramon might be a Russian stooge has obviously now caused quite a bit of kerfuffle within the DA itself because of that. So as a result, Roman has issued what he thinks is a should we put it to bed piece. Now, I would call it an apology. He wouldn't. He would say he never actually apologized. But I don't think it will be read that way. It will be read as an apology, and there are certain lines, which, I will say that from myself, is very dumb, such as he says that he made provocative statements. He knows they were provocative. He knows that they were problematic statements. Well, the fact by acknowledging them as problematic or as inflammatory, it's as good as basically saying, I was intending to do this for a reaction, and therefore I know that what I did was wrong. That is an apology by any other way. By acknowledging it as problematic, that's an apology, and that's what I feel he's done. Now, the problem is that what specifically is problematic? What has he specifically apologized for? What is he actually admitting that he did? He doesn't say, right? And he's got like thousands of videos online and hundreds of thousands of tweets. So anything now that they want to assign to be problematic, it's very easy to do now. And I actually think that he's put himself into a black hole that he shouldn't have done. I don't believe this was the right approach, but that's my view.
Well, that's exactly the point of view I made in earlier when I was commenting, is that this is not a wise move. In fact, there's two very problematic paragraphs in that statement that basically negate his work as a journalist by saying that he, basically saying people could easily infer that he's saying, well, I wasn't serious about, I was just doing this to get attention. That is very unfortunate, and I don't know who's advising him or if anybody's advising him, but they ought to be given a PK, because that's just dumb. I never admit this. Ronaldo, when he was attacked, made a statement that I felt was he shouldn't have done. Now, he didn't go this far. He just said that, he made an apology for a particular video. I don't think he should have done that. He should have let things play out, because what you do is you self-convict yourself in the court of public opinion, because obviously people aren't bright enough, including these DA donors, to look at things. As you said, the Ross Adam visit included black journalists. It included people who work with the government. It included Nigerians. Are all these people Russian agents? And oh, by the way, when did loving Russia become a problem for the leftist News 24 and their overlords at the African National Congress, who are bootlicking sycophants of Russia and Putin? So, I mean, this is just stupid on its face. Look, you and I would probably have a problem if he was an agent of Russia, which he's not. But why would News 24? They would love it, especially if he was in the ANC. They wouldn't say anything. The hypocrisy is beyond the pale.
Well, I would agree with everything that you've just said there. See, the problem that you inevitably become on this specific topic is that, as you rightly say, that the media would theoretically enjoy it, but there's another part of them that wouldn't, because what the media typically wants to do these days is follow the narrative, right? I mean, what you never actually saw out of News 24 is that possibly there might have been a reason for the Russian-Ukraine war. They very much came on the narrative of Russia invaded Ukraine, or was a bad invasion. And I'm not here to say whether it was good or bad. That's immaterial. But it is factual that all the articles written were actually about a pro-Ukrainian point of view. And at the time, that was not the approach of the African National Congress. The ANC did not take that approach. They took the approach that potentially there was a reason for it, and they wanted to be non-partisan. And you may recall that at the time, News 24 wrote numerous articles about it, basically calling the president to take a partisan line and to pick a side, right? So they were very confrontational on it. Now, because of that, Roman took a different approach. He said possibly there was an approach, there was a reason for it. And when I say Roman, I can't just say it was Roman as a whole. Obviously, it was us at Morning Shot as a collective, because we wanted to do what journalists should do, see both sides of the opinion. You put both sides out and you allow the public to make their own decision. That's all we did. We never told people which side to believe. We may have made jokes about it or had a degree of polemic where we just made off-the-cuff comments, like in a joke or lightheartedness. But at the end of the day, we never told people you should believe these guys. Like these guys here, they bad. Like we don't do that. We've never done that. We're a talk show. We're there to talk. So that's all we do. But the news doesn't like that, because when you provide an alternative narrative that challenges the truth claims of the media, you are taking the domain of the media over. And Ramon and a Morning Shot and even you challenge the status quo. You challenge the setters of truth. And you see, that's okay when you remain in your lane. Because when you remain in your lane, they can say, well, know your place. Stay in your lane. Don't overstep your boundaries. They can pitch you down and tell you to shut up. But you see, Ramon's done the unthinkable. He obtained a degree of what they might class as a position of power. Now Ramon has to be cut down at the knees. Because whilst he can be dismissed as just a pod bro, a right-wing conspiracy theorist, like who cares what they say? But now he has access to government ministers. He's in talking distance of the president. That's problematic for them. And he needs to be quieted at every opportunity now.
Well, I think it's not just he needs to be quiet, and I think there's one more aspect of this, which the op-ed piece that I shared from Politics Web from Miss Antoni hits spot on, and I think there's got to be some truth to this. Since Renegade Reports, Ramon has exposed fake journalists and fake journalism specifically over and over and over again. Also called out hypocrisy, as I've done, as you're doing now in front of the camera. It's gone on. And I think there's a degree of revenge here and get even with Ramon and piling on that's taking place here. Now, I'm not calling out anybody specifically, but we know, for instance, in the case of Ronaldo, the journalist who went after him had a grudge against him and tried to pull this and blackmail him 5 years prior. And so now he gets his opportunity because he's a member of parliament and the narrative runs off. So I think there's a degree of that going on here as well. But you're right. He's in look, it's not a position of power. I don't know what planet they're on. He's a chief of staff in one ministry in a government that's ineffective. So let's not get carried away. It's not like he's the minister or he's the chief executive in the office of the presidency or something like that. He is not that close to the halls of power. He's chief of staff. His job is to schedule appointments. His job is to schedule meetings. His job is to get the documents together, edit the stuff, review the press releases. It's a little more than that, but it is that. Now, in my job as chief of staff, I ran a $3 billion program, and all the staff reported to me and ran major events. He's got some degree of that, what he's doing. But you're right. He's in what they perceive to be a position of power, and we can't tolerate that, because he's a threat to the status quo. And that's just really horrific. People... You and I talked, I think you weren't going to do any more videos on this. We talked last week because it was becoming a boring topic. But as I said, there'll be more coming because they're going to keep digging and look for new angles. I didn't expect to see a Russian agent angle. I mean, that one kind of caught me a little bit off guard. But it becomes apropos and newsworthy. And I do it, as I explained in my second video this morning.
I did.
What?
I did see the Russian angle, because you see the problem inevitably becomes, you got to think to yourself, okay, what are his views that might be deemed to be problematic, and what could we use as a sledgehammer? And inevitably they kind of only really three. He has been what you might class as pro-Russian. It's not really pro-Russian. He likes some of the things they do, like they have energy independence. They deeply nationalistic. They like things that are pro-family. It doesn't mean that he wants to move to Russia tomorrow and become a Russian spy. That's not. But frankly, you could say that about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is deeply nationalistic. I like some of the things they do. They protect their citizens. It doesn't mean I'm about to convert to Islam, is it? Right? So, and typically speaking, you may have said that some of these things were like deeply Catholic held positions. But you can't turn around and say, oh, well, the 2.1 million Catholics in the world must all be bigoted, right-wing, hard right, whatever. Like, you can't say that. But they're going to use an angle, and the Russian angle always seemed the obvious. The next one will probably be some of his positions on LGBT, because he has been very critical of LGBT. And I predicted that would be the next angle.
Well, I did see that one coming, the LGBTQ. That one's coming for sure. I have no doubt about that. No, I'd say I didn't expect to see the Russian because, I mean, I'm not necessarily not expecting to see it, but not from where it came from. I mean, Karen Mon just got out of a 3-year or 4 or 5 or 6 year nonsense in which she was being sued over accused of being biased and printing fake news by Jacob Zuma. She just won this. And then she's going to come out and do exactly the same thing to someone else. I mean, that beggars imagination. I mean, that just shows you that she's not very bright.
No, but you see what it also does, in my personal opinion, is that it passes doubt on the journalistic organization or the journalistic class as a whole, because all of News 24 asked for support from the public when it was Jacob Zuma suing Karen because of everything that was going on from there. They also said, we must protect, journalist freedom, and there was big campaigns. I mean, we all got if you're a subscriber to Propagandist 24, which unfortunately I have to be, otherwise I can't get most of the articles. They were writing to you constantly about how atrocious this was. Look how she's been defamed. All she's doing is putting opinions out, and she's just saying what she thinks is going on. Right after that, she does the same thing to Ramon. And it's telling, because what typically now tends to happen is you look at that article and it was classed as breaking exclusive. It's this amazing drops out. It's almost like somebody gave her a tip. But the actual article relies on two things. The first is a report from a bullshit organization that nobody's ever heard of.
Murmur.
And the second was from a Gareth Cliff interview from months ago. So, not being funny, but why didn't they publish the reports and the breaking at the time when all of it became public knowledge? And the answer is clear. At the time, he was nobody. Now he's somebody. He's the most, as he describes it, the most famous chief of staff in South Africa. And he is, because nobody knows who the others are. I mean, they've questioned his qualifications. I've got it on good authority that there's a very, very senior minister whose chief of staff doesn't even have a matric. But that's not on the front page. I mean, but Ramon's got a law degree. Oh, that's not good enough. So it's very curious that her breaking is relying on information that's been in the public domain for months and months and months and end. So arguably, this isn't exclusive at all. So then you've got to ask yourself, well, what is it if it's not exclusive? It's News 24 realizing that all their hit pieces till today have been ineffective, and they now need to get the top brass onto it to make an impact. And lo and behold, to a degree, it did make an impact. It touched all the right nerves.
It did, and you're right. It's not exclusive. It's just no different than Ronaldo's story. Ronaldo did that video 14, 15 years ago, and in 2012, there was a documentary in South Africa about young YouTubers and social media content creators, which included Black South Africans and Ronaldo and a couple other whites, talking about how all people are disaffected by the new South Africa. That video was shown in the documentary, albeit not with the foul language included, but they showed parts of his video in there as part of that documentary. So it was previously published, covered in the news, and then in 2019, the issue came up again in the news. They tried to run a story in again, and the whole thing was discussed, and it was dismissed, and here it is. So it's not exactly news. It's not exclusive. It's not breaking. What is it? It's a hit piece. That's all it is. And this is what I found so egregious. On the anniversary of 9/11 at midnight, my time, 6 a.m., when people start reading the news of South Africa, the lead story above the fold at Propaganda 24 is a hit piece smear attack on Ramon Cabanac. Why? To what end? And now let's follow this immediately behind this, which this is what I predicted was going to happen. I'm sure you did as well. Is that now we see stories today about the Bella bill being signed Friday, which is not exactly a surprise. We knew this was going to happen. The DA knew it when they entered into a governing national unity with the ANC. And now the News 24 and IOL are both running stories. The GNU is in jeopardy. It's going to collapse. The DA is threatening to leave. Well, they're not. Maybe they will, but they're not. This is just creating news. It's yellow journalism. It is sensationalism of the highest order. It's not journalism. That's for damn sure.
No, and my sources inside the DA, for whatever they're worth, basically tell me that the Bella Bill is an issue. It's an issue specifically because of some of the language limitations, specifically on Afrikaans individuals. But actually, it's not just Afrikaners, because what the Bella Bill effectively attempts to do is render the only real language in South Africa that would be used for business, education, basically everywhere, would be English. And that's actually problematic for some Xhosa speaking individuals who can't speak English. It's problematic for some Zulu people that can't speak English. So as a native English speaker, well, I'm clearly going to be like, this is great. But you can imagine for a serious amount of South Africans, well, that's not going to be great. Now, when it comes to the education, where the parents can't speak English and the child's never had any form of English training and then they go to school, it's highly problematic. It's highly problematic. Your parents can't help the children with school. And the whole idea behind this is what that does then to the family-parent dynamic. There is a whole rationality behind challenging the Bella Bill. It's not just Afrikaner rights. It's not just, racism. There is a lot attached to it. And so when the DA says that they are attempting to challenge it, they want to challenge it. They want there to be amendments to it. That's not a distinctly DA thing for them to say. Yes, okay, the DA was the official opposition underneath the previous administration. So it was their job to fight the Bella Bill as the official opposition. But they are now in government. There are other people that can take up the mantle. They can still make their position known. But as you said in even a video yourself, there's all the NGOs, there's AfriForum, there's Solidarity, there's a shed load of other people that will spearhead it just as well as the DA will. The DA is welcome to put his name on at the bottom there as one of the people supporting the legal action if that's what they want. Will it collapse the GNU? Doubt it. And from what I hear in the DA, yes, it's a problem. It's not the only problem they've got. And what about NHR? They've got problems there too. Is that going to collapse them? Look, they had a number of problems that they knew were going to be there even before they went into coalition government or GNU or whatever you want to call it. The reality is that there are alternatives to the DA pursuing these. And it doesn't mean that the DA that they just abandon their thing or even sign off on it. What they can do is they can cede the authority of official opposition to other people. That's all they can do.
That's what's so frustrating about all of this is that it's not news reporting. It's trying to generate news. It's utter nonsense. Both of these bills are in the same format and same written status they were in, approved by Parliament before the coalition was formed. Before the coalition. These bills are drafted and presented and passed by Parliament before May 29th. And so this is just nonsense that the media outlets are trying to generate something. As you've rightly said here, and I've said previously, this is a government national unit, whatever, it's a coalition. The DA knew what they were entering into, and they made Faustian compromises here to go into this government. In fact, one of the biggest Faustian compromises, they're underrepresented. They represent over 30% of the total vote total of this coalition. 30%. Yet they only have 19% of the ministerial positions. So they've already made a Faustian bargain just to get into the government. They're not going to scupper the government over this. They're not going to scupper it over NHI. It will be taken up by Solidarity. It will be taken up by AfriForum, be taken up by the Treatment Action Campaign. A host of folks will take this up. It will be upheld by illegitimate courts at a lower level. It will go to the Supreme Court of Appeal, likely be overturned. If it's not, it'll go to the Constitutional Court, and both these things will die. And you talk about people being disadvantaged by English. That's 100% correct. English is the language of my nation, despite the scumbag efforts to make it Spanish. But only 7% of South Africans speak English as a first language. 93% of South Africans speak Venda, Xhosa, Afrikaans, Setswana, Zulu. Take your pick. They speak something else, Sotho. They don't speak first language English. This is a huge detrimental impact on educational outcomes. It is moronic, especially when the Constitution allows for people to be taught in their first language. This is violation of that spirit of that. So the Bella bill will be overturned. I don't know how much damage will be done in the meantime, but it will be overturned. The national health insurance scam will be overturned eventually, but it will cause a lot of pain and problems as it goes through. This is, these are people trying to make news. They're supposed to be reporting news. If they want to make news, that's what the op-ed page is for, not the front page.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes through to the NHR bill, okay, my sources within government basically tell me that everybody seems to think that Aaron, also known as Moron, is deemed to be a very boring kind of like dipsy daisy minister. Apparently, whenever he talks, the information I get from some of the ministers is that they all kind of like fall asleep and just think, oh, this guy again. So he's not really taken with a serious amount of credibility. And the problem is that he appears to have taken NHI as his own little action call to pursue it and push it forward. That in itself becomes problematic because what in the process he's doing is he's talking as if he's talking for the entire national government, and that's not entirely true. There are alternatives to the NHR that would still be the NHR. One was proposed by Netcare, which was basically the compulsory enrollment of all employees onto a private medical scheme of some variety, which would obviously alleviate the public hospitals' budgets and allow them to support the, should we call it, the underprivileged. That's actually very well liked at a government level because it would relieve the burden. It would still be a national health insurance, but it would relieve the health burden quite a bit. That's a amendment to the bill. And the reason I use those words, and I use them very carefully, it's an amendment to the bill. The same would go for the Bella bill. Largely, the DA is supportive of the overall objectives of the Bella bill. They just don't agree that everything should be allowed to be determined on a language perspective. They believe people should be able to be educated in their own language in order to preserve basically the culture at home and obviously the culture within the wider community. Because you must remember, like if your parents are, let's say, for example, Venda, and they speak Venda to each other, but you go into school and you're speaking English every day, you've been taught in there. Your native language in your head when you come home may be in your preference to talk English because that's your friends are talking there, you're talking there. It creates a divide between you and the parents. And that's what the Bella bill potentially could do. Now, again, that's an amendment to the Bella bill because largely the Bella bill is supported. Now, once you understand that there's just specific points of contention, then you understand that those amendments can be pursued by anyone. And by and large, they are pursued by anybody. So to say that these are specific problematic pieces of legislation and in the whole is inaccurate. They are not problematic in the whole. They are problematic in part. And the parts that are problematic can be challenged by, and are being challenged by external organizations. But that's not as impressive to report on, is it?
No, it's boring and pedantic and rather sleep-inducing, kind of like sitting in a parliamentary session or sitting in a legislature anywhere. So I get it. But whenever we have these conversations, of course, it generates comments in the chat. There's a couple I need to address very quickly here. One by Cabello Quacha. Cabello says that English is the business language. It's Chris in South Africa. Everyone must learn it. Well, Cabello, I don't deny that. I am a polyglot who speaks 6 languages to varying degrees of proficiency. Many of them where I was fluent in them, but not quite so much in 2 of them anymore. But 6 languages, 3 of them are African. So I'm in favor of languages and language learning. And I learned them all as an adult. I didn't learn them as a child. I didn't get the gift of having a nanny who I learned Basutu from growing up. I had to learn these languages as an adult, which is a challenge. So obviously I took it seriously, and I value learning languages. But Cabello, there's a difference between learning English as a second language and then forcing English onto people who's not their first language. You wind up destroying their proficiency and their literacy in their first language is what you do. And that is harmful. It's tragic to culture and to society. It should never be allowed. It should never be allowed. Now, in a country that's multilingual like South Africa, that is a tragic thing to do, and the Constitution doesn't allow for that. It allows for people to protect their culture. So that's the first thing. Look, I've said this thousands of times on my program. The reason why the U.S. is the only country in the world that doesn't have an official language, major industrialized country. We don't have an official language. Even though English is our language, it's not official. So we get nonsense going on all over the country where people putting things in Hmong and Thai documents that I can't read, even though I'm living in America. It's ridiculous. But as I've said, English is the language of business. English is the language of aviation. Pilots talk in towers in English all over the world. Doesn't matter where you land. Even if it's Beijing, they speak English. English is the language of the internet. Despite efforts to make Mandarin, it doesn't work. English is the language of commerce. English is the language of space. English is the language of science. You go back 100 years ago, all academic papers in chemistry and physics were written in German by Americans, by Canadians, by Brits, by French, by German. Everyone wrote in German. It was the language of science 100 years ago. Today, less than 15% of academic papers in those fields are written in German. The rest are all written in English. For a couple centuries, French was the language of diplomacy. While it still exists and it's still carried along just to make the French feel good at the African Union, the EU, the United Nations, it is not the language of diplomacy anymore. English is. So I don't dispute you that English is important, but you should not force it. When you do that, you destroy cultures. We can give you thousands of examples of how people's cultures were exterminated and they were assimilated and lost their ties. Native Americans. We've seen it also in Africa where it happens. We could go on forever about this. And the next comment here was, where was it at here? It was Jonathan said, Helen Zilla says she speaks for all white people. I challenge you to show me where Helen Zilla ever claimed that she speaks for white people. I've never heard a single politician in South Africa since Eugene Terreblanche claiming that, and he didn't even claim he spoke for white people. He claimed he spoke for the Boers. So I've never heard anyone in South Africa, especially Helen Zilla, say, I speak for white people. I challenge you to show me the quote of that. Anyway, sorry about that. It's sometimes important to address the chat going on over here because people are contributing to the conversation. Byron.
Yeah, and actually, there's a point that you make there that is worthwhile repeating, right? And the point that you made was actually around some, black individuals and what they would like to see. That in itself is an important question because let us not forget, underneath the apartheid regime, everybody was required to speak Afrikaans, and that was deemed to be something that they didn't want. And one of the reasons that all the official languages were put into the constitution in the first place was to recognize everybody's culture and history through their language, so there would never be a repeat of the Afrikaners enforcing Afrikaans on everybody as they did during apartheid. So it becomes very interesting that you occasionally find some of the black individuals almost liking policies that they were told to like, not knowing that those were the same policies that were adopted during apartheid, and they're told to not like apartheid. It doesn't make sense, right? It's basically like it wasn't okay when it was done in apartheid, but it's okay now because at least we're not having apartheid. I mean, the policy's the same. It shouldn't make a difference to you. But it's because of the narrative that's pursued that apparently now they're told by the media that it's now okay. Therefore, you find that some of these lines are repeated almost parrot fashion without actually thinking about it. And that in itself is part of the problem, Chris. Like, the media should be presenting facts such that people can think about it in their own rights, not that people can be told something that they have to buy and almost adopt. And this is symptomatic of the exact thing that we started talking about in the first place with the Roman story. Why is it linked? Because if you actually look at a lot of Roman's views, they're far closer to a lot of black individuals in South Africa's views than they are white people. But we're told that Roman's deeply offensive to those individuals. And you hear a lot of those individuals turn around and say things to you like, oh, I'm told that Romans are racist. And so they repeat it. You could see it on Twitter. They repeat it. But actually, if you actually had any of them sit down and discuss things on a one-to-one basis, or even if they looked at some of his content alone, they would probably find that they agree far more with Roman than they would think. As an example, ANC is deeply pro-Russian, mate. So if Roman is deeply pro-Russian, he's right there in the ANC, mate.
That was my point.
Okay, he believes in property rights, and he don't want people to go there and steal his stuff. Lo and behold, so does everyone else. Like, if you go ask a serious amount of black township livers, not people who live in metropolitan cities, the people in the locations, most of them are deeply religious, value family life, and do not support liberal living. Take from that whatever you want. That's a fact. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying largely that is a truth. So these are all views that we're told that Ramon has that are deeply problematic. But they're representative of the large amount of people out there. They're just not representative of what the political class wants you, or I'm not even going to call them political class. I'm going to say the journalistic class. The journalistic class doesn't want you to believe that those views are representative of everybody. Just like they don't want you to understand that the Bella is repeat of apartheid policies when it comes through to language definition. All we've done is change the language, right? We've changed it from Afrikaans to English.
Yep.
That's why it's problematic. But they're not reporting that. What they're doing is they're trying to set a narrative, and that's problematic, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. You know, and how did English become okay? Look, we adopted the language, but why should South Africans adopt it? You know, it's as I said, you know, we had two events that really led to the end of apartheid in a major fashion. That was the Soweto uprisings in 1976 over the imposition of Afrikaans teaching, and again in 1985. And that insurrection lasted 9 months in 1985, nearly toppled the government. It was so serious. And you can ask some of the people in my chat who are veterans who were forced to roll out to townships during those events. It was horrific what happened. But I mean, the imposing Afrikaans as the medium of instruction on everyone was unjust, and that's exactly what Bella does. The fact that it's being done by the ANC doesn't make it any less egregious. Nick said something. He says, a little disagreement. It shouldn't be forced. It should be a second language. Well, I didn't say it should be forced. I said English is a good choice for a language as a second language. I never said it should be forced. I said people should be taught in the first language, certainly through primary school. When you get to secondary school, you can have a different discussion there. But yeah, it's anyway. It's and there was something else here, real quick. Let me find it here really quickly. Sorry, maybe I missed it again. But anyway, thanks for the folks for the comments. I do appreciate it here. But look, you got to listen to the entirety of what people say. I mean, the things I've just repeated are points I've been making ad infinitum thousands of times on this program and in videos over the past going on 4+, well, working on 5 years now. So it's not exactly news. And I've heard Byron state many of these positions previously before. So it is coming out in the conversation here because we are seeing the hypocrisy of the glitterati. The glitterati who think they know better, that they deign. And what I find funny about this, most funny about this, Byron, is that these are the people that run around and puff up their chest. Well, I went to Oxford. I have a degree from Rhodes in this and I have that. And they act like they're special. They're not special. I have been to every form of postgraduate education, undergraduate education you can imagine, have multiple degrees from all over the world, speak multiple languages, lived all over the world, worked in government, worked out of government, worked in every sector, healthcare, defense, and you name it, communications, you name it. Doesn't make me special, but it sure makes me better informed. And despite all that, I remain objective. They're not even remotely objective. And I start to attribute this to the little hived off world that they live in, that they are in this exclusive little world where they're special and everyone else is just, you know, Soylent Green.
Yeah, but you see, the biggest problem that you start to find in South Africa is that a lot of these people are based on, when I mean based, I mean they live in one specific part of South Africa that is very representative of a very isolated view. I'm going to give you an example of Gun-Free South Africa, who happens to have all of their key policy people all living out of like Stellenbosch locations in the middle of the Western Cape, one of the safest areas in the country. So of course, when these guys start talking to you about, you know, gun safety and how crime is horrendous everywhere else, you're like, okay, dude, but you don't live in a place in the rest of the country where the type of policies that you want to enact would actually be beneficial for those individuals. You go to some place in the north of the country, like even in Durban, where shootings are like a norm, even political shootings are a norm. And then you go there and start telling them how you want to do away with their firearm. You go to the taxi driver in the middle of, you know, Soweto and start telling him you want to do away with his firearms. He's going to look at you like you're crazy. But you see, where they live in the little isolated pocket in the middle of the Stellenbosch, makes sense because, you know, they live in a nice gated community. It's relatively safe. It's well governed. We see this a lot. South Africa is a mix of societies molded together. It's like when you talk about the crime rates in South Africa, everybody goes, well, South Africa is so dangerous. I mean, technically speaking, I live in the most dangerous city in South Africa, but I never see anything here. I don't see gunshots. I don't see people dying on the streets. Like, I never see violence. I'm not a victim of violence here. But that's not because there isn't violence here. is because the violence is usually limited to a specific area of the place. And unfortunately, the statistics go to the area as a whole. They don't just say, well, in this township over here, that's where all the crime is, and therefore just stay away from there. Like on a lot of other places, that's exactly what happens. LA is a really good example. There are places in LA where the crime rate makes Kailicha look like, you know, a freaking kindergarten. You know, it's Disney. And I know I've been to those places in LA, man. Like they some of them are pretty horrendous. But the reality of the situation is that when you look at the rest of the place, it's relatively safe. But you see, we don't talk like that. That's because South Africa isn't a unified place with everything being the same social class, with everybody earning the same, with everybody living in the same conditions. It's highly fractured. So when you make statements that are all-encompassing without taking into account the nuances of the society, you are being as bigoted as you claim the alternative is being. You are being as limited and as blinkered as you're claiming people like us are. If Ramon says something like, oh, a lot of the Bantu people, you know, they're monarchists at heart. They go, well, you can't talk for all black people. Okay, but you're talking for the whole of the country as if it's all the same. You're going to talk for all the white people as if they're all the same. But now all of a sudden the narrative doesn't suit and you want to be very specific. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it. You need to set one set of rules and abide by it. You can't just shift everything all the time. Unfortunately, there's only one class that appears to do that without anybody noticing. And it is the media class.
Well, 100% on that one, Byron. It is the media class. You know, it's there's a couple points that came up here in the chat I'd like to address again. Boy, this thing is really slow. It's supposed to show me in the view, and it's not doing it. There we go. So I need to see myself on the camera. Anyway, a couple things came up. Pablo Charlie asked a question about renaming of things. And I'm very clear on this, and I won't apologize for this because it's a statement of fact. As a historian, I've seen this over and over again as it happens around the world. I saw it in the Baltic states where they tried to stamp out Estonian and Latvian and Lithuanian. They were more successful in Estonia and Latvia than they were in Lithuania, where they were still the majority of the population. But this happens all over the world. Excuse me. And so what has been happening in South Africa with renaming campaigns is cultural genocide. Now, people running around talking about farm murders and white genocide, I've always disavowed that statement and said that's a misnomer. It's misstated. The violence that's happening there is a very different phenomenon altogether. It affects everybody. But this is cultural genocide, the attempt to stamp out. There was no settlement in Pretoria when Trek Boers rocked up there and established Pretoria, named it after Andries Pretorius. There was no settlement in what was known as Grahamstown, when folks showed up there in Eastern Cape and established that settlement. There was no settlement in Petersburg when Trek Boers established it, and now it's Polokwane, and we have Shwane, and we have Makanda. That is cultural genocide, an effort to stamp out the achievements and the existence of other people. Whether they're good or bad people is another issue. But that's what that is. That's an intentional effort to destroy it, and we see it all over. Stellenbosch University was granted the land in perpetuity on the premise that the medium of instruction would always be Afrikaans. Yet, they are eliminating Afrikaans. They punish students who speak Afrikaans on campus. It is disgraceful. You know, there are plenty of other universities where people speak English, plenty of other universities where people could speak other languages, but they want to stamp out Afrikaans. That is cultural genocide. Now, the other thing I want to talk about here is that one of the problems, Byron, back to your point about this closed circle and they live in certain places, is one of them runs a story and then the rest of them just parrot it and they repeat it. So for months on end, I kept getting nonsense of people showing in my chat and reading stories online about, you know, how miserable the Cape Flats are. And yes, they are quite sad and pathetic in many places if you've been there. And just how there is no formal housing, there's no electricity, there's no plumbing, there's no shops. That's a fantasy. I covered the elections in May. On May 29th, I went throughout Khayelitsha, everywhere in Khayelitsha. I went to 5 polling stations in Khayelitsha, and I found formal housing, electricity, bridges, roads, no potholes on the roads, by the way, the ones I was at all over Khayelitsha. There was 1 or 2 in a couple places. And there are, of course, also informal settlements, shacks. There are also people without sewage. It's not simply hard and fast one way. That doesn't make it a better place to live. It doesn't mean it's perfect. But when people report on Khayelitsha, all they just talk about is the misery. There are people living perfectly fine and wonderful lives in Khayelitsha. And that's probably going to be used, oh, look at this guy's disconnected. He must be some kind of racist. No, it just tells me you've never been to Khayelitsha. I have. And that's what a journalist does. They go get the information. They go see for themselves. Kind of like you guys went up to Irania. Kind of like Rahman went to Russia. Kind of like you went and met with Gate McKenzie. That's what a journalist will do. These people that sit in their palaces in Cape Town, in the Propaganda 24 headquarters down there in the Central Business District, they even get off their ass and go out somewhere? Or do they just call people up? You got 40 minutes. Give me your comments, and the interview will be over. Give me a break.
No, the actual problem these days, Chris, is that the majority of journalism is done on Twitter. They just sit all day. They go through, they comb through Twitter, they see what they can find, and then they write an article on it. Done. Like, investigative journalism is dead. And I think to a large degree, the reason it's dead is because of the 24 news hour cycle. It's this desire to have breaking. And it's the desire to be the first before anybody else. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you weren't the first, but you were the most accurate? Now, that would be swell. Because, I don't always need to know everything as it occurs, like right then and there. Like, I don't want to be glued to my phone, constantly refreshing news. Like, oh, something might happen. Like, I don't want to live in that state. Most people don't. And that's actually why people now don't watch the news, because they understand. I mean, look, you covered it, right? That you discussed it. That the story in the US was originally leaked, and they said it was immigrants, and he had gone around and stabbed people, and then it was like, actually, he wasn't a fresh off the boat Islamist. But they got the story wrong in the first instance, and that led to riots. But why did they get it wrong? Because they made assumptions, and they made assumptions in order to be first to market. They were like, well, this seems like it's probably this, it's usually this, just say it. And they did it. But it was wrong. It wasn't what they thought it was. And you see, the problem is, once it's out there, mate. And you know that as well as I do. Like, the journalists are no longer interested in putting news out there that is accurate to inform. They're more interested in putting news out there that is, in a way, designed to persuade your opinion. Because as the Nazi said, a lie repeatedly said soon becomes a fact. And nothing exemplifies this more than the current climate we find ourselves in. Going back to the Rahman story, they all labeled him a racist, but he's never been found guilty of racism in the courts. He's never been tried by the DA, the government, any independent tribunal. Nobody has ever tried him of racism, ever. He's apparently bigoted, but they can't tell you why he's bigoted. He's just bigoted because, he's an alt-right bro. Okay? Well, that's not a crime. But the reality is, you put that statement out, and once the statement's out, it's there forever. And all everybody else does is they repeat what that guy said. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me, as a lawyer, I'm a lawyer by trade. I have a master's in law. So I will tell you about an English judge in the Court of Appeal called Lord Denning. He's so famous, he's in every freaking bloody book, every law book in the UK. Because you see, we have something in the UK called binding precedent. It means if two judges agree to something, it basically becomes law. So like once the first judge says something, if another judge goes, as he said, yeah, I agree with that, that has now binding precedent. You have to follow it. It now has almost a degree of, it's been legislated to a degree. Peculiarity of English law, I understand. Lord Denning was really, really smart. You know what he would do? He'd decide in one case, and then the next time the very same case came before the courts, he opted to try that case. And he referred to himself. He'd go, my Honourable Lord Denning, in that case over there, he said this, and I'm going to agree with him. And so effectively, he always referred to himself, and he ended up creating all these laws that were basically undemocratic. He was basically referring himself. There was no two judges agreeing with this principle. And that's, in effect, what's happening now with journalism. I say a fabricated story. You go and repeat it. The guy over there goes and repeats it. Ergo, it's law. It's fact now. It can't not be fact because, everybody's doing it now. Like, they all agree. So must be true. I mean, why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting because it's not just that. It's the willful, intentional effort to belittle and to insult and defame people. So, Ramon, we've talked about. Let's throw just a second back to Ronaldo Jos. And, in the article that came out in the Times Live, in the article that was in Daily Maverick, the one that she just did, it talks about suspended MP Ronaldo Jos. That's factually incorrect. Ronaldo is not suspended from Parliament. That's a lie. They keep saying suspended MP. He's not suspended. He's serving in Parliament. He was never suspended. He's not under any charge or investigation by Parliament or the government of South Africa for anything. The only thing he's going through is a trial in the court of public opinion and a bogus lawsuit by the South African Captured Human Rights Commission trying to take him to the Equality Court, and he's going to win there. Look, this is nonsense. It goes on and on and on. He's not a suspended member of Parliament. It's just ridiculous. Now, Charmaine in the chat said if the Spanish had colonized the world instead of English, the international language would be Spanish right now. Just saying. Well, Charmaine, not to disagree with you, but to disagree with you. Not to be an asshole, but it's usually when people say that. So I am disagreeing with you. The Spanish did colonize the world. They got there first, and the Portuguese did as well. I mean, the Spanish colonized all of Latin America except for Brazil, which the Portuguese got. They colonized North America. They colonized Africa, in North Africa and in West Africa, Rio Muni, plus they got the Spanish enclaves that still remain, still part of Spain and North Africa. They've colonized every part of the world except for, actually colonized Asia. They colonized the Philippines. That was Spanish. So everywhere except Australia, they colonized. The reason the Spanish and why Spanish didn't conquer the world is because Spain came too soon before technology and world events and mass human population became so large that English overtook it. Plus, English was in a position because the Brits were so much more effective at amassing wealth, and wealth gives influence, and people want to emulate that. So there's a number of factors why Spanish did not become the international language. But anyway, just a little bit of history lesson there. So anyway, sorry about that. I digress, Byron, but I thought that was an important point to talk about.
Absolutely. So, I mean, all of this basically becomes important in line with everything that we're seeing, right? Because you're finding the same thing happening, even, I suppose, to a degree, in what's happened now in the US. For the longest time, everybody agreed that Camilla had the personality of a drowned fish. It was common knowledge. That's why you had to run Joe Biden, right? You couldn't run her. And all they do now is they rewrite the articles to say how majestic she is and how brilliant she is, and everybody regurgitates the article. In fact, if you look online, what you start to find is how often the talking points are repeated to a point where it's verbatim. But all the newspapers report the same lines over and over and over again. But because they all repeated like that, it must be true, right? I mean, why else would it be? I mean, you couldn't have that degree of consensus and it not be true. I mean, it must be all these people agreeing to the same thing, as if it's not coordinated. And to a degree, the news specifically doesn't seem to understand. This is why no one trusts the news anymore. The trust in the news is at a record low. According to a BBC article that was released this week, more people are now logging onto X to find the news than they are the BBC. And the BBC finds that shocking. But the BBC are partisan. And this has led people like even Elon Musk saying X isn't in the news, it is the news. It is the place where news originates. Why go to the news? Because the news is a commentary on what's happening on X. That's Elon's view. Now, he would say that because he owns X. But to a degree, it's not disfactual. Like, the news is no longer occurring in the way that it used to. People would go on. Do you remember, like, in the old Gulf Wars and stuff, they'd actually go to the ground, they'd look at what's happening, they'd film, they'd ask questions, and then you had the guy that might die in a crossfire, and they would like have all the like singing and the cries, and like, oh, look what he sacrificed in the name of freedom and truth and whatever else. That's gone, man. Now it's just find some clips on YouTube, and that guy over there says, you know, these guys over here died. That must be true. And we saw that recently in Afghanistan, in Israel, when they had the whole thing with Palestine. There were the guys. They were like, "I've been hurt by the Israeli bomb," and it turned out he was an actor. And the next week, he was laughing on camera, talking about how stupid the Israelis were. Like, but the journalists were reporting on it, and they were all doing it. Therefore, everybody assumed it to be true. And I'll ask you a question that I think is really important. Where's the retractions of the false statements?
Oh, there aren't no retractions, false statements. And if they do, they appear on page 7, and they don't appear, and they don't rerun the story. And then now you get people like the IOL who are arrogant after being found, egregiously guilty of violating the press code in South Africa on multiple occasions, saying in all caps, no apologies on the front page. They're not going to apologize for Ronaldo. Well, we'll see how that goes. But, there was a time when all these major news organizations, William Schreier lived in Berlin. He wrote for the New York Times. That's the guy that wrote The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, one of the most famous books on the history of Nazi Germany, because he lived there throughout the 1930s as an American living in Berlin, writing on this stuff. Today, if a media outlet has a press office, a journalist in Africa, covering a continent that takes 12 hours to fly from Munich to Joburg, a continent that is massive, every single one of their journalists is either in Cape Town 90% of the time, or 10% of the time they're in Nairobi. And they cover the continent from there. That's why when people try to say that, what do I know? Who am I to talk about Africa? Well, number one, I've been there. I've been on the ground. I know what I'm talking about. And besides that, how is me reporting on South Africa from Pennsylvania any different than South Africans reporting on Morocco from Cape Town or from Joburg? It is no different from the time distance factor. It's just ridiculous. But, there was a time, even during the Gulf War, Bernard Shaw, as ridiculous as he was hiding under the table, I'm hiding under the table. And it was just comical. But Bernard Shaw was there. He was there. But when the Paris nightclub attacks happened a couple years ago, nobody from any of the major media networks in America had anybody on the ground in Paris. How can we not have a journalist in Paris? Is France that unimportant? Well, I'd argue it probably is, but that's another story. But not a single journalist from Fox, MSNBC, none of them there. So they had to get people on the plane to fly them over there. Of course, there's no Concorde. They aren't going to be there in 3 hours. It takes a minimum 10 hours because you got to get to the airport, you got to fly there. Anyway, you're talking about 12 hours before somebody can get on the ground, best case. That they did is they had to have Brit Hume on Fox News try to explain to people. He doesn't know anything about what's going on there. I did a far better job and a more accurate, honest, and correct job reporting that news as it broke from my living room because I know what the hell I'm talking about, and I'm a counterterrorism expert. I knew better than he did. And, it drives me batshit bonkers, as Katie Hopkins likes to say, that people listen to these outlets, listen to these media people who have no credentials, who have no experience, who are not objective. They just simply work for some organization that has the money to print things or to publish things. And because of that, they listen to them. And that's why the world's in the crapper. I mean, if you watched the debate last night, which I did, and I commented on it, this is my quick, 1 minute analysis. Donald Trump underperformed. He missed several opportunities to knock the ball out of the park, like when they spent 16 minutes ranting about abortion. He should have said, why are we talking about this? This issue is done and decided. It was unconstitutional. A 52-year-old unconstitutional decision was overturned by the court. It's done and dusted. The court, the Constitution, the 10th Amendment says that right resides with the states and the people, not the federal government. Therefore, it's with the states. There isn't a single state in America where abortion is illegal today, 2 years after the Dobbs decision overturned Roe versus Wade. Why do you want to talk about this? I have no control over this president. There's nothing I can do. I can't sign executive order, and I will veto any legislation that tries to impose an unlawful, unconstitutional law. Done and dusted. And he missed these opportunities. So Trump was boring. He was poor performance. He get like a C+ last night. At the same time, Kamala Harris was condescending, arrogant, disrespectful, and everything she accused Trump of being. Let's not go back. I have a plan. Her only plan, as she mentioned 4 times, is she's going to give people $50,000 with no business acumen, my money, tax breaks, to start a business. No discussion about their business plan. Just going to give it to them because they're small business. And then they're going to give families who reproduce $6,000 tax benefit, my money again, so they have kids and I pay for their diapers. That's not a plan. That's more deficit spending. So she was not good, but she wins. And ABC was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. When Donald Trump, and this is the last one I'll do, then I'll turn it back over to you. When Donald Trump was set up by ABC, well, President Trump, you recently questioned the ethnicity and race of your opponent. Do you regret saying that? What he should have said is that, listen, I didn't question that, and then just paused. And when they had the egregious looks on their face and their jaws dropped, he says, I was invited to the Black Journalist Convention in Chicago. I accepted the invitation. The vice president didn't go. I went. She was invited. And they brought the issue up. They said, what are your thoughts on this? And I said, well, I don't know what her race is. That's her opinion. It's none of my business. What do I care? Anyway, that's what it should have been. So look, I mean, but the reporting on this today is that that she shellacked Trump, that she was brilliant, she was elegant. She was none of that. She was a condescending, arrogant asshat, and Trump underperformed, and ABC was obnoxious, disrespectful, and rude, and their questions were set up. That's the truthful analysis of what happened last night. Of course, that's an opinion of mine, but I'm right.
Yeah, so I'm going to check out in a second. As I'm sure you can hear, I'm not exactly that well at the moment. Check out how much of a soldier I am, still jumping on a live stream when I'm got a little bit of
COVID.
I don't know, flu. There's no such thing as COVID anymore, mate. It's all I don't know actually what it is. I mean, people no longer talk about it. But anyway, one thing I will say just very quickly on the Harris-Trump debate is that actually also indicative of the media class. The media class told me that the debate between Trump and Biden was so magnificent for Biden that nobody could ever take Trump seriously after that. They ran headline upon headline about how brilliant Biden was. And everybody with a brain cell looked at the whole Biden thing and thought Biden looked like a senile old fool who couldn't even talk to himself. All the YouTube clips were about him basically falling asleep whilst talking and forgetting his lines and whatever else. But the media told me he was magnificent and he was ready to go for 4 more years. Now, once you've seen that, you then got to look back at the whole Harris debate and go, I'm not even interested in what the media says. I mean, they lied to me last time, and that guy's stuff was so disastrous that the debate actually sank his political career. He had to basically go retire after that debate. So why would it be any different now? It's like, it's just more of the same. And this, unfortunately, I haven't even read the comeback from the media on the debate because I'm not interested. I know it's going to be a lie. And that's me personally. I'm just like, they're going to fabricate it. This is the danger the media do. They keep fabricating stuff. You eventually get to a point nobody takes you seriously.
Yep, fair point. All right, Byron, get some rest. Feel well. Thanks for jumping on with us. I think I'm going to have to do a night owls now so I can actually cover the news because we spent the time here. But thank you for coming on. I think it was an important, prescient, timely, that's kind of redundant, prescient and timely, kind of the same, discussion of a relevant topic that a lot of people are claiming is stale news. But as I said, you cannot allow a false narrative become the record. Someone has to produce the truth and objective analysis of events. And in this case, we were talking about Roman and what's going on earlier. Both of us were critical of Roman and his statement. Both of us were honest and objective about it. And if people don't like it, that's where the door is.
Cool, man. Take it easy. I'll bow off now. Everybody else stay on, do the usual things, like, share, subscribe, join the channel, the usual stuff. Anyway, bye.
All right, folks, that was Byron Shepard. Let me go ahead and shut down my Zoom and switch back to the camera. Give me just a second. Don't run off. We're not done here. Let me just end this. Okay, I'm still here on the microphone. You just don't see me on camera, but you will see me in a moment. And there you are. Got to get rid of that Zoom window. Okay, Zoom has changed their software today and didn't announce that once. Typical sort of thing. So let me get rid of these. I don't need these. The reason why I'm probably shouting is because I have my headphones on. I couldn't hear myself. So sorry for that. I guess some people were not happy with me shouting. Yeah, get well, Byron. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go back and read some of the chat that I may have missed here. I didn't do the news, so should I do a night owls now is what I'm going to say. It's my Wednesday. Should we have a night owls? Should we have a night owls today? Okay, so you don't have to. If you don't want to, that's fine. I don't take offense to that. Influence and strength of the British Empire is what saved the world. Hate me. That's true, Pablo Charlie. Criminals running around from site B to site C. Just put up a sign. My neighbor is liberal, anti-gun homeowner. Good Lord. Nothing worse than communist. What saved Middle East? Okay, Garrett. Byron, it's a brilliant way to set precedents. Precedents. I disagree, Mark. I think that's a hideous way to set precedents. It's brilliant to get away with crap, but it's not healthy. Bernard says, Ron and Ronaldo are just guys making ends meet. They're not racist. Well, I agree they're not racist. An old lady had to drive through a petrol bomb to drop my brother off in P in 1987, says Nick. Good Lord. Is that the same brother that passed when you came to Western Cape? The reason most TV stations have the same rhetoric is because they're owned by the same folks. Yep. Gutter in the UAE are where, well, yeah, look at that. Look at capital cities, and that's not the one. What's this? There's a big radio network here in the States, owns hundreds of radio stations. ABC owns so many television stations. They own ESPN, they own Disney, they own ABC. It's just a conglomerate, absolutely. TV is an ANC mouthpiece. Yep. What else? This is a copy of the Smoke to Joy Before Petrol. That's the guy's got injured badly. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Hoyben air gun. Don't know anything about it. Sorry. Julie, hey, how's it going? I'm glad to see you, Julie. I'm glad you're back. Okay, then Alfiltrations is back here. Miss News versus Ramon. Well, Ramon, oh, you mean, yeah, please watch my videos. I've got 2 today talking about this. One specifically about the IOL article from Karen Mound, and then the second one about the issue in general. Bloody Englishman turned gang boss. What's this? Night Owls. I'm good, says Matthew. Oh, that's what Mark meant. Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay. People are like, okay, Matthew Dixon is going away. No one's going to miss the troll. Mike, you are tardy today. Yeah, we have Byron Shepard asked to call in right after I started the program. So we just spent a little over an hour with Byron, and we didn't get to the news. We started the news and didn't get very far. In fact, let me see if let's see what I got here. How much did I get through? No, I didn't get through any of the news. I researched the news, did a lot of work, made a video this morning, went off and took care of the veterans thing, lowered the flagpole, and we haven't gotten to it. Oh, my goodness. Yes, it was your brother. Okay. Thank you for that, Nick. I thought so. Yep. Cash in transit heist, the police, yeah, often involved in it. Well, we saw this situation in which the poor kid, Armand, was murdered, riddled with 23 bullets in an assassination, a hit, because they were going after a whistleblower in this engineering firm. It wasn't him. And the person responsible for it, leading the gang, was a 30-year Johannesburg Metro Police veteran, a detective. And he's so incompetent, he murdered the wrong person. Yikes. I'll explain something about my... Okay. Vaseline, huh? Yeah, news on night owls. I'll run through it a lot faster than normal because I wasn't planning on doing night owls. But yeah, I think we'll do that. We'll do news on night owls. How's that? News on night owls. I need to change the banner for this and put up a Pod Bros, not Pod Bros, Braai Brus. Yeah, I need to put a Braai Brus and change the title and then rename it for it. So 103 likes, 479 people here. Not a lot of people, but a long concurrent audience. The average view time is 20 minutes. That's really long for a live stream. Thank you for that. We did go over 700 viewers today, 18,705. It's a long slog back to 20,000. Frustrating. I hope I get there before the other channel drops below 20,000, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. I did a video last night that was published about a little bit after 1 o'clock in the morning, if I'm not mistaken. And that video had more views in 1 hour than my previous video on Tembi Similani had in 10 hours. That one just went over 1,000. But the Ramon Cabanac one, that one's at 4,600 views now. Thank you for those who've watched that. I do appreciate that. I think it's a very objective, very fair, and very honest video. You can disagree, and you're welcome to leave a comment behind if you like. And then the one I just did a little while ago, that one is not doing as well, but it's at 1,200 views. And that was why the Ramon Cabanac Ronaldo's contrived controversies matter. Yep, so got 1 dislike, and we got 19 comments. Let's see if anything worth reading. Keep it up. Your unbiased reporting is important. Well, yeah, I just wish more would see it. He's a Frenchman who doesn't know Afrikaans. Always need a translator. Actually, Ramon is a Moroccan, not a Frenchman. Ramon is not Afrikaans speaking. He's not Russian. He's white. Actually, one would argue he's Arab. Hi, Chris Ramon. Hugo Kruger was in Russia, I think, earlier this year. Yeah, that's correct. Hugo Kruger was invited. I don't know if he went. Yep. So anyway, there's more comments there. But thanks to all the folks who've watched that. I do appreciate that. It takes a lot of time and effort to do the analysis, put this stuff in there. So I'm grateful. If I don't do a video every day, just don't get the feedback because YouTube does not promote my videos after a day. Yep. Caught that real late night one. Yep. Cape Town cop corruption vividly since 1989, says Spiker Hunt. Well, that's pretty crazy, since 1989. Ramon Moroccan, he was here 500 years. Huh? What does 500 years have to do with anything? Barbara, the rhubarb song. Oh gosh, I was thinking about that last night. That's disappeared. The Barbara song. Hey, let me. I'm going to bring up a few little gems.
In 5 years.
So this is a gem from a long time ago, man. This is from a long time ago. This is Massachusetts Senator John Kerry after he failed to become president, running against George Bush. This is what John Kerry had to say back in 2009. It is now 15 years later. Pay attention to what I said. This is entertaining. 15 years later. You ready for this? Here we go.
In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic summer. That exposes more ocean to sunlight. Ocean is dark. It consumes more of the heat from the sunlight, which then accelerates the rate of the melting and warming rather than the ice sheet and the snow that used to reflect it back up into the atmosphere.
2009, John Kerry said that in 5 years, scientists have a consensus that we will see an ice-free Arctic. The Arctic is not even remotely ice-free. True, there is an ice-free passage to the Northwest Passage part of the year now, but there is no ice-free. John Kerry. Oh my God, what a dipshit. What a dipshit. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That guy is just comical. So here's Eric Swalwell.
What in the...
This is Eric Swalwell. This is Fag's boyfriend. This is the guy who sleeps with Chinese spies. Look at this. Now, bear in mind that this is a meme created by, I think it was created by Elon Musk, certainly shared by Elon Musk. And the House Judiciary Committee chair has reposted this on Twitter. And Eric Swalwell, Fang's boyfriend, is losing his mind. Watch this. This is hilarious. This was today or yesterday. This is so funny.
What in the hell is this? The chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets? My God. Are you okay, Mr. Chairman? Because last year, for a very long time, you tweeted and promoted Kanye West as he was calling for genocide against the Jews, and you kept it up. And now, when we have victims coming here, you're tweeting this nonsense. I don't know why you would do this. I hope you're okay. I don't know if the aliens who are eating your ducks are in the room with us right now, but Mr. Chairman, this is a serious issue. These people have loved ones who have been lost, and you tweeted this.
Hey, Fang's boyfriend, have you ever heard of a joke? Have you ever heard of a joke? Yeah, that was a joke. Fart name or Mr. Fang. Yep. Wish I could explain this. Yeah, anyway. What's October 26th? And after Kerry jumped into giant Heinz fortune. That's right. Stole the Heinz fortune. And then those scumbags, Teresa Heinz Kerry, sold us down the river. As a decades-long shareholder of the Heinz Corporation, a proud American corporation that is largely responsible for food safety in this country, not the government. It wasn't the federal government. By the way, it wasn't the federal government that created food safety standards. You know that, right? It wasn't the government that put agriculture inspectors out because they're worried about the quality of food and people dying from ptomaine poisoning and salmonella poisoning and all kinds of infections. It wasn't them. It was H.J. Heinz. How, you say? Well, ladies and gentlemen, history will reveal that H.J. Heinz took an incredibly unique position as a business leader in forming his wealth. He chose not to corner the market with flooding goods or crowding out competition based on cheaper products or more volume. He chose the route of quality. When H.J. Heinz ketchup came along, ketchup was a disgusting mix of all kinds of things and poor quality, poor storage, poor bottling, poor canning. H.J. Heinz created the first hygienic standards and consistency in a product like Heinz 57 ketchup and the other 56 varieties of things that they sold. It was the H.J. Heinz Corporation, long before the federal government gave two flying flips about food safety in this country, that made sure that our food supply was safe. So people would buy Heinz because they knew they weren't going to get sick. People would buy Heinz because they knew it would taste the same all the time. People bought Heinz because it was a good value, because you didn't get sick, you didn't die, you didn't eat garbage. That's how we got food safety in this country, not because of the federal government. Yeah, imagine that. I like to grab the kitties. Yeah, save the pussy. Geese have false teeth and will defend themselves. Cats will give away. What's this? Carry sprouts scare global warming stories while flying around in private. Yeah, spouts. You say sprouts. It's been spouts, Maryland. It will change the name from Peter. What's this? I don't know what the hell that is. Change the name. Evidence is holes blown in the Arctic because the Earth continues too much gas to ice ratio. Balance of all animals in the permafrost control system. Main burner. The main binder of carbon gases. The permafrost is a big place of methane. That's where you're going to find a lot of methane there. And you'll find a lot of carbon content there that will decay and release the carbon. Yep, this is what I believe. Okay. Poor canning, South Africa, South Georgia Island, deaths of expeditions. Yeah, exactly, poor canning. But it was H.J. Heinz that actually perfected these things. It wasn't the government. Senator and Miss Heinz Kerry story is a whole book in itself. It is. What a fool he was to marry her. And here we are 20 years later with the destroyed Heinz fortune. H.J. Heinz belongs to Brazil. Anheuser-Busch. How much more American German do you get than that? Belongs to AB InBev, a Belgian Brazilian corporation. Chrysler, an iconic brand named after Walter Chrysler. I think it was Walter. Belongs to Fiat. The list goes on and on and on of American brands that have been sold down the river by corrupt elites who run them, selling away our manufacturing capacity and having our jobs offshored and shipped overseas at the expense of our nation and our workers. The list is endless. Not just selling companies off, but also selling production off. The United States was the world's leading textile manufacturer. We were the world's leading cotton producer. We're neither. We're like fifth in cotton production, and we're almost non-existent in textile manufacturing in this country now. We led the way, first with New England in textile manufacturing, and then in the Carolinas with textile manufacturing. The United States was the world's leading automotive producer. The green energy bullshit is pushing us to the point where we're not even going to be a top automobile producer. China will surpass us with their fake green cars and batteries that explode. It's cool how the poll has the same results of the water to earth ratio. What's this? Durban was like Miami at one time, but Miami's not even like Miami now. They're both out of control havens of criminals. What do you think about 1% retirement back? I have no idea what you're talking about, Gerhard. What is 1% retirement back? He would not have been looking for a live skeleton. He would have... What's this? Great branding. Actually, Pablo Charlie. I think the KwaZulu-Natal branding is good branding for KZN. Yeah, KZN. What are you going to call it? N? Natal? That's Christmas. So KZN is very good marketing. I thought it was a smart move. Gauteng is also good marketing. It's a place of gold. Egoli. Yep, so it makes sense. Look at the destruction of the PA coal towns, once vibrant, beautiful areas. Yep. Look at the steel towns in America destroyed. In Ohio, Youngstown, Pittsburgh, Altoona, all completely gone. Well, Pittsburgh isn't gone yet. It's been taken over by wackadoodles with nose piercings and purple hair. Yeah, anyway, so did you guys want me to do a night owls? Okay, so let's see. 73% said yes. So for every 10, that's 30 people say they're going to show up. All right. Well, let's see if you stick to that, folks. Let's see if you stick to that. Let me go ahead and set up another one. Okay, hang on a second. Let me change this while we're in midstream here. And I'm going to change this one. I'm going to put the banner on it. Let me see if I can do it. It's going to be see if I can pull this off while I'm live. Wouldn't that be cool? I'm going to change that to the Braai Brus. Okay. Okay. Hang on. Okay, I just saved the one we're on now with a different headline, and I'm going to go back and create the Night Owls with the headlines. Let's see how that goes. Okay, did it save it? It did. Okay, so now I'll create a new stream. Let's see if it'll allow me to do that while I'm live. I think I can. Schedule a stream, create new. Okay, post. There you go. All right, news and entertainment. Not entertainment, news. We'll go back with the news report. We'll select this for news of the day. Okay. Next, I'm going to set this up for the next hour. Hey, this is pretty cool. It's let me do it so far. We'll see if it continues. That'd be interesting. I'm going to zip through the news pretty quickly, though, when I do this at 2 p.m. So it'd be 8 o'clock South Africa time. So it's setting it up now. Let's see if it works. Okay, it looks like it worked. Ultra low latency. Dismiss that. Enable auto stop. I can't do auto start. Okay. Okay. YouTube. Okay. All right. We didn't get lost here. We're still there, right? Okay. We're still here. Still here. There's a big delay over here. What's going on? Okay. Wow. That's a huge delay. It's only supposed to be a second or two. All right. So YouTube Studio. Hang on a second there, folks. Not going to make Night Owls. That's fine, folks. We weren't planning on doing Night Owls. So I'm just going to direct people there, so hopefully get an audience showing up for it. And customization. One last thing I need to do here, and I get back to the conversation, and that's there it is. Okay, save. This is all on the fly. Look at that. Wow. Okay, cool beans. So we're set up, and you'll be redirected to that. There's 100 people here now, so we'll see if you show up for the Night Owls, and we'll go through the news very quickly. Why is it called Cabanac, for goodness sake? It's named that from a Khoi word. It's named after that. But again, there was no Khoi settlement there. The city of Port Elizabeth was created by settlers who came there. Anyway, send a direct link to it. Yeah, let me do that real quick. Well, you could do that, Hendo. Just go get the link and put it in here real quick. Hey, there's Arctic. How's it going? You can claim 1% of your retirement fund back anytime you want. Oh, yeah, no. That's a disaster. It's a disaster. It's a dumb idea. People will be irresponsible, and then you and I will have to pay for them because they've squandered their retirement. No, I don't agree with that. That's nonsense, utter nonsense. By the way, we didn't talk about policy last night. What's going to happen in the debate? What's Kamala Harris going to do other than give my money away? There's no discussion of how the border is going to be fixed, no discussion of the federal deficit, no discussion of Trump's plan to cut Social Security taxes. Yeah, nothing. Western Cape has the best city branding. I don't think so. Cape Town is great, but I think Kapstadt sounds better. But we also know why and who contributes to the great branding, and I don't feel any remorse about it. What else? Watch your post-debate commentary. I agree both candidates sucked. I'm worried Trump is going to lose. Arctic, okay, I'm glad you're turning up late now. It didn't move the needle. Didn't move the needle at all. The best possible outcome here would have been if she imploded and then she would have been exposed and some Democrats and independents would have left her. It didn't change anything last night. Trump is ahead in the battleground states. I did the map last night of where I think the election is going to go. We even played around with it. We're generous to Kamala Harris, giving her Arizona and giving her Michigan. She still didn't win the election. Anyway, so I don't think he's going to lose it, but it is. I think it's his to lose, and he needs to get some work done here, very soon. Very soon. She was ludicrous. Yeah, she was well coached. Yeah, a lot of myths. Well, she had a lot of misses too. She just, but she controlled her cackling. It was just one instance of her cackling. She controlled her ums and ahs, so that was well done. she came across as much more polished than we've seen her ever before. But she was condescending. She was arrogant. She had dismissive looks on her face. She was rude. She called Trump names all the time, accused him of calling people names, and that's all she did. She called him a convicted criminal when she knows full well these are trumped up cases. She called him extreme and never offered an example of extreme. She lied about Charlottesville. She lied about so many things, and she was never fact checked by it. But the moderators felt the need to fact check Trump on more than one occasion. Yeah. Anyway, so it was all set up. Yeah. So don't worry about it. It didn't change the needle. Didn't change it. Trump underperformed poorly, but it didn't change the needle. This is a bogus election anyway. I mean, she's not even the candidate. Joe Biden is, yet he's on the beach. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. And, or should I wrap it up? Go a few more minutes. Trump needs your coaching. Yeah, Trump does need my coaching. He needs somebody's coaching. He probably had coaches who told him that they didn't listen. Mark says, probably pissed. Who is pissed? Yeah, maybe they gave her some, Quaaludes to calm her down. Yep. Kapstadt is in Dutch, and Afrikaans, the Western Cape is also Stellenbosch, Paro, Cape Winelands, Gardner. Huh? Kapstadt's also German. It's German. Kapstadt. Yeah, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's true. Worcester, Beaufort West, Cape Town, George, exactly. That's the best branding? I don't think so. Worcester's not good branding. It sounds like something you put on your steak. Worcestershire sauce. Beaufort West, that sounds like some froggy thing. George, who names a town George? Why don't we just call it Linda? That is not good branding. I don't know why you think that's good landing. Pablo, Charlie, I'm not a South African. I'm going to tell you. So where are you going on vacation? Ibiza. Where are you going on vacation? Mallorca. Ooh, where are you going on vacation? The Canary Islands. Ooh, the Seychelles. George. Yeah. Where are you going on vacation? Well, you lose on both counts there, Pablo, Charlie. Maconda or Grahamstown. Really? Why am I laughing? I'm laughing because it's comical. It's comical, brother. I mean, that's not the best branding. Reindeer and Hofmeier, two Austro-Hungarian agents. Huh? Austro-Hungarian agents. Chris, we should have you and Megyn Kelly be mods for the debate. Oh, I'd do that. I get a haircut and I'd shave my beard for that. Yep. But I need to do some exercise because I have been remiss, not remorse. No remorse, remiss. Not disheartened. The fundamental things haven't changed. Trump is in the lead. Exactly, Light Rain. I agree 100%. He missed a golden opportunity to destroy her last night with her own hoist her on her own petard, and that's unfortunate because he could have sealed and locked down the race last night. Donald Trump missed a golden opportunity. These opportunities come along rarely. He got one against Joe Biden back in June or July. He missed a golden opportunity to put her down in this race. Yep. Yes, Limpopo does sound like the capital of Burkina Faso. No doubt about that. Hofmeier, maybe Rome Pollard or something. I have no idea what you're saying, man. Trump doesn't tolerate fools. Why should he have a debate her? Why should he debate her? Because he could have destroyed her last night, and no amount of fake media fawning press could have covered up her collapse had he actually done it. It's expected to debate. Doesn't matter whether Trump tolerates fools. It's expected. It's the norm in American political politics at the presidential level. Look, I participate in debates. I did debate running for the state legislature. It was a joke. It really wasn't a debate. It was just a question and answer session, much less a debate. But yeah, anyway, so I watched Megyn Kelly giving a post show and she really gave it to the moderators. Well, that's rich coming from Megyn Kelly. Her abysmal, disgraceful, misandric commentary during her debate with Fox News in 2016 attacking Donald Trump. Yeah, that's pretty rich coming from her. Listen, I still have a grudge to bear against Megyn Kelly, not because I'm a Trump supporter, but because her behavior was so beyond the pale, that I have never forgiven her for that. And I know people are fawning all over. She's a hottie at her age, and she's so objective, and we love her. Megyn Kelly. No, she's not trustworthy. She's not a genuine conservative. She showed that on Fox News. Just like who's the gay dude who always told us he was gay? It was on Fox News. I can't remember him. He was so annoying, so arrogant, so condescending. He had an afternoon show. 3 versus 1 debacle. Yeah, she's not the only one to say that, Charles. Others said it too. Who was the guy? Who was the guy that was on Fox News? He was gay. And the only reason he was gay is because he's just always telling us he's gay. I didn't care. Mainstream media completely accurately reported the post-debate. Yep, didn't matter. Exactly. Didn't matter how Trump would have done there. It's a no-win situation unless he destroyed her. And then there would be clips. There would be sound bites that would be shared on Twitter, which is where people actually form their votes. People actually form their opinions based on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That would have done it. What the hell is that guy's name? Oh, man, former Fox News host who was gay. What the hell's his name? Shepard Smith. Funny, you can look somebody up based on their sexuality and find out who they were. He's older than me. He's 60 now. Shepard Smith. What an arrogant asshat that guy was. Wait a second. Is he gay? It says he was married to a woman here. Oh, he is gay. Oh, it must have been a beard. He was married to Virginia Donald in 87. They divorced in 93 with no children. And his partner is Giovanni Graziano. Yeah, since 2012. He is gay. Yeah, okay. Shepard Smith, that's the guy. Erica sees no problems with gay people. Nor do I, Erica. That's not the point. The point is that he told me he was gay all the time. He was so annoying. Not because he was gay, but because he was just an annoying idiot. Julie says, I'm not a Trump supporter. What are you talking about? Where do people draw these conclusions from? I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Harris supporter. I'm a patriotic American who will vote for Donald Trump for the 3rd time. That's pretty much says it. Donald Trump is the only option we have. In 2020, he was the only legitimate option we had. In 2016, he was the only legitimate option he had, but he wasn't my candidate. I voted for Ted. Well, I didn't vote for Ted Cruz. I couldn't vote in the primaries. I wanted to vote for Ted Cruz, but he wasn't there. You got to go. Attempted 3 braais. Okay, enjoy the braais. Yeah, all loaded in her favor. What is Spiker Hunt talking about? Going on vacation to Cape Town to visit the Winelands and Devil's Peak sounds better than I'm visiting. Yeah, no, Pablo Charlie. Cape Winelands, that's a good marketing brand. Devil's Peak. Look, the UK's got the Devil's Arse. I've been to the Devil's Arse. It's true. It's in the Midlands. It's a cave where the water comes in and spits back out. Sounds like the devil's farting, passing gas. Yeah, I've been to the Devil's Arse. Mr. Pelosi is a deal. It's a deal marriage. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, anyway. So 5-second memory retention. Well, Shepard Smith has been gone from Fox News for like 4 years, and I haven't watched Fox News in 5 years, something like that. So that wouldn't be 5-second memory retention. Just took a second to remember who he was. Shepard Smith. Shows you how memorable he was. His show was so arrogant, so annoying, so opinionated, and he was supposedly reporting the news. Yeah, anyway. No, I thought somebody said Lemon. No, not Don Lemonhead. Julie said, you just said you're not a Trump supporter. That's what I said. I didn't mumble, Julie. I will vote for Donald Trump. Enthusiastically, by the way. Doesn't make me a Trump supporter. I'm not knocking on doors for Trump. I'm not running around convincing, I'm not making phone calls to get people to vote for Trump. No, that would be a supporter. You're welcome, Hester. Thanks for being here. Yeah, well, I'm termed all the time by people who claim I'm a in the tank for Trump supporter, and I look, maybe we should term that differently, because the people they're talking about are people that see nothing wrong with Donald Trump. They think everything he does, he farts golden eggs. I don't think so. Like any other person, he has flaws, and he has some big ones, some big whoppers. But he has been the best person to lead us out of this morass because he's got the money, the resources, the patience, and the constitution to put up with the nonsense, which no one else would do. Mitt Romney was a coward. He gave like a cheap set of cards. John McCain folded like a cheap set. They were horrible candidates. Bob Dole, another terrible candidate. Frankly, George Bush wasn't a very good candidate either, but the Democrats fielded Al Gore, so, you know, it wasn't that hard to beat him. Pablo says Cape Town is in the top 10 cities in the world for tourism culture for a reason. I don't know why you think I'm disputing you, Pablo, but it's also in the top 10 places you're likely to get shot on your way to the airport. Supporters that make Trump look like a cult leader also more of an obstacle than an asset to his candidacy. Correct, Pablo. And I'm not one of those people. Drachenfels on the Rhine. There you go. That'd be cool. All right. We are going to transition over to the Night Owls. There'll be like a 5-minute break between this and the start of the next one. So if you're going to hang out with me, you can come back and join me. I'll zip through the news as quickly as I can because it's Wednesday. I don't normally do that, but the audience asked for it, and I'm going to try to comply. So thanks. This news broadcast was kind of set off kilter because Byron called in, which is fine. The press conveniently ignore the fact that Trump never took 1 cent of salary. Of course they do. They forget that. They also neglect to show the photographs of Trump getting the handshake from Jesse Jackson Jr. and Al Sharpton and how they complimented him. They also forget to point out all the things. Last night she lied and said that he built buildings and kept black people out of them. That's a total fabrication. Donald Trump built low-income housing that no one else is willing to build. Didn't make him a ton of money, but he did it because it was the right thing to do. Cape Town, place to get rid of your contracted wife. Oh, God, Francois, I'm not going to go there. Not going to go there. Oh, my goodness. Look, the people who have small houses tend to cluster a little further north in Cape Town, just saying. Anyway, we'll see you guys in 5 minutes, hopefully. Cheers. Thanks for being here, and always a pleasure. What am I looking for here? That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this one. There it is.